The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Good morning, everybody. It is 10:30 a.m. in the north, 11:30 down south. Welcome to Idaho Signal. We are live on the air, live every day, January 15, 2025. And my name is Matt Edwards. So welcome, everybody. We have a good show today. Representative Dale Hawkins is rescheduled. He'll be back today. Hopefully, we'll get him on here in just a few minutes. And then, of course, we're going to go over some of the things that happened in committee. There's, the committees are still light, but we're going to go over them. There's no activity scheduled in the Senate or the House floor today. So we're going to lead off here today with a bombshell of a story that came out in the Kootenai Journal, which is a local paper up in the Kootenai County area. And but this is a bombshell of a story because it has ramifications across the entire state. And do we have? I have the paper here. I get the paper sent to my house. So when I sat down the last night and I read this story, I was shocked. And what it really did is kind of center and it reconfigured my mind to understand the root cause, which may be the root cause of the problems with our public school system in terms of the direction, the wokeness, the ideology, the focus of where everybody's focused in terms of teaching children and the curriculum and the social emotional learning and all this stuff, rather than what our Constitution says is the duty of the legislature and the duty of public education. So we're going to compare those two by using this article. This was out in the Kootenai Journal, and I don't know if we have if we have a screenshot from the actual article here or the website, but over at the Kootenai Journal. Let's fast forward on this. This screenshot here. Go to the next slide. Yeah, go to this slide here because this is the beginning of it right here. So this is what it says. We're going to get into this, folks. Last year, a couple of public school administrators contacted the Kootenai Journal over their concerns that the Idaho Department of Education has been outsourcing the accreditation process for all public high schools to a global organization currently known as Cognia. Now, let me stop right there, folks, because the current anti-DEI task force that the legislature has convened and that we've covered on this show already is dealing with the DEI conversations in higher ed at our universities. Okay, this is not about our public school system or the high schools or K through 12. And Cognia is an accreditation agency that my producers were showing me earlier. They have basically taken over the entire country. They have absorbed all of these sort of different accreditation agencies into one big giant conglomerate. And so Cognia is a worldwide organization. They're based out of Georgia, I believe. Yeah, here's the map. And these are all the states that are now under the that have most of their public schools being accredited by Cognia. Now, why is this a problem? I'll tell you why this is a problem, at least for Idaho. And we're going to walk through this, and so get your thinking caps on here. Article 9, Section 1 of the Idaho Constitution and our statutes here say that it is the duty of where do I have it? I don't memorize this stuff, folks. The stability of a Republican form of government, depending mainly upon the intelligence of the people, it shall be the duty of the Idaho legislature to establish and maintain a general, uniform, thorough system of public and free common schools. You're going to hear this quoted a lot when we talk about school choice and everything. But the first part of here, the stability of a Republican form of government, depending mainly upon the intelligence of the people. Okay, so the duty that the Idaho legislature has is to protect the stability of our Republican form of government by making sure we educate children and students to be intelligent. So that's our goal here, is to maintain the stability of our Republican form of government. The reason why this is a problem, here's the statute here in terms of accreditation. So when it comes to accreditation, the State Board of Education is charged right here. It shall establish standards for accreditation of any of the secondary schools and sets forth minimum requirements to be set by the public, private, and parochial secondary schools, and therefore, and so forth. Okay, the reason why this is a problem here with Cognia, folks, is that it is Cognia's standards. It is their accreditation standards that are in direct conflict with what we want here in Idaho. So does that make sense? I want to see your comments come in. If I need to go back and redo some of these things, I want to know you're following along with me here. So when schools want to be accredited, right? And that's very important for students to go to a school that has accreditation. Therefore, they can get into higher education. And we all know the reasons behind accreditation and accrediting schools, right? To make sure that their standards are up to speed. The problem is that the standards, the performance standards that Cognia have, here it is on the screen. The problem is that their standards don't match what we just read in that statute. Okay? And I'm going to read to you a couple of these standards. Standard number 1, and this is under key characteristic, the culture of learning. Standard number 1, leaders cultivate and sustain a culture that demonstrates respect, fairness, equity, and inclusion, and is free from bias. Now, again, there might be some of you out there going, "Well, that all sounds great. Those all sound awesome." But because we're already in the discussion in higher ed when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that these are all code words. These are all been co-opted by the cultural Marxists to dismantle our society, basically, right? So there are 30 different standards here. And nowhere in here does it say that they are going to help Idaho preserve its Republican form of government by creating intelligent people. So this is a big problem. This is a big problem. And there are some Idaho public school administrators that came forward at least as a came forward to this report. It's a Charity Joy. Big shout out to Charity Joy of the Kootenai Journal here for breaking this story. Let's go back to this. I want to explain to you down here in part of this article, and we'll put the link up in the show notes so that you can go to this. Cognia has 30 standards, none of which make any effort to assess based on ensuring the stability of our Republican form of government. Their list of standards begins with demonstration of equity. This means Cognia measures academic performance on equity instead of equal opportunity. For example, it measures racial disparities in suspensions as equally important. So again, folks, the reason why this is a big deal is because schools, in order to keep their accreditation, they have to meet the standards set by Cognia. They don't have to meet the standards set by the Idaho Constitution. They have to meet the standards set by Cognia. If Cognia doesn't feel that that a school is meeting these 30 standards or whatever they pull out of these standards, then the school is at risk of losing its accreditation. So if a school is out there operating without these standards in effect that Cognia wants, then they'll lose their accreditation. Your child will lose the diploma that means something when they move on to higher education or to a job or something, right? So what the state board has done, and the article points out here, what the state board has done essentially is abdicate its responsibility to a third party, to a global third party, to handle this situation. Yeah, here, look at this. I'm going to go down a little bit. According to the Legislative Services Office, Senate Bill 1176 and House Bill 734 created laws that each college and university shall verify no state appropriated funds are used to support DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, or social justice ideology as part of any student activities, clubs, events, or organizations on campus. So they're taking a hard look at this already in the higher ed situation. But here, funnily enough, down here in the K through 12 in high school, it's happening, and it's been happening, which is exactly why, whenever you go to board meetings and you're wondering why are schools doing what they're doing, why are they changing the language, why are they getting away with all this stuff, why are our kids focused on cultural nonsense, right? Rather than learning about our republic, learning about our founders, and having a strong focus to make sure that we're raising students up to be intelligent people in order to protect the stability of our Republican form of government. That is the sole responsibility that has been laid out in statute. That's what's going on. So that is a big story. Representative Dale Hawkins hopefully will join us here in a little while to talk more about this. I'm not sure if he's fully aware of this. I don't want to cut him off, catch him unaware. But this is a big issue. We're going to stay on it. We applaud the Kootenai Journal and Charity Joy for bringing this up to our attention. And this is really, I'm going to read something real quick again. The administrators, the ones that pointed this out, they said that they posed this question: does the section, Article 9, Section 1, which I read earlier, it empowers the legislature to establish a system of free schools for the purpose of maintaining the stability of a Republican form of government. Does this section not require the people to be educated in the very Republican form of government it seeks to uphold? Common sense would say yes, but add that it would be necessary to be given a deep and exhaustive education into the American founders, their values, and the principles that shaped and established our great republic. But Cognia does not focus on the purpose of education established by Idaho's Constitution. Instead, it's focused firmly on today and tomorrow, seeking what works in our schools and helping provide students with the opportunities that knowledge brings. So a lot of big word salad here from Cognia. So, folks, we're gonna stay on this. I encourage you to head over to the Kootenai Journal, read that story, read up on it, and hopefully those administrators will come forward a little bit more. I'd love to have them on the show. We'll see if Charity can come on too and shed a little bit more light onto what her research has shown. But I believe this is a big deal, and this again goes to the root cause of why our schools are so focused. They're so focused on this. It's because they have some of them have their, some of them are willingly doing it, right, with certain administrators. But there are those here, because we have good teachers and good people here in Idaho, that their hands are tied. Because if they don't meet these standards set by Cognia, set by this global organization that we showed the map, they control almost all the schools across the country, that if we don't do that, they will pull accreditation. That's the risk here. There it is. And the reason why they're different colors here, I've been told, is because each one of these states used to be under different accreditation agencies, and those have all been gobbled up. So the Northwest over there was under one. California has its own. They're probably leading the way. The South and the Midwest and the Northeast, they were all been gobbled up by Cognia here. So very important stuff, folks. Very important. So we're going to get to the root. This is the root cause. This is the root cause of some of what's going on in our education system. And if we can get back to what it was supposed to be, then maybe we wouldn't be having these horrible disputes over public money and public schools and why our schools are failing. Like, let's focus here at home. Let's get the Department of Education, the federal government wiped out, get rid of it. We don't need federal dollars. We don't need federal strings attached to educating our own children. And if you want to homeschool. If you want to start your own co-op, if you want to fund a private school. I was talking with somebody, I said, what do we do with all this? If they shut down the whole system, what do? They auction off schools and open up private schools. Who knows what's going on? I have no idea. But now we know why a lot of these schools are tied. They're tied up in this DEI nonsense because they'll lose their accreditation if they don't succumb to these globalist standards. It's awful. It's awful. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll continue the program. Stay right there.
That's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among a world silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
Okay, we are back. Very good, folks. January 15 here. It's Wednesday. We're 5 days away. Just point this out. We're 5 days away from President Trump returning to the White House. And just a quick programming note. We will not be broadcasting on Monday, the 20th. Because most of us will be watching the events of the inauguration, and why compete with that? So, and it's also Martin Luther King Day, so I believe the legislature won't even be in session, and it's also the national football game, Notre Dame versus Ohio State. So, I got a lot to do that day, so enjoy that day. I believe we have Representative Dale Hawkins with us. Representative, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you, Matt. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Yeah. I know I sent you a link to an article earlier. I doubt you had the time to look over it, but we just spent the first top of the show talking about how the State Board of Education has Cognia is the accreditation agency for all of the high schools and K through 12 throughout Idaho. And are you familiar with this story? I don't want to bombard you with it. If you're not, we can move on to something else. But I just kind of wanted to get a quick take on this.
So I might be, but I don't know if it's the same one that I read. So go ahead and go.
Yeah, sure. So apparently this came out in the Kootenai Journal. Charity Joy does great work over there. And she broke this story that, all of the attention in DEI has been on higher ed recently, but apparently the Idaho Department of Education has been outsourcing accreditation process for all public high schools to an organization called Cognia, which has been around for 130 years, or at least the roots of them have been around that long. And they appear that their standards for keeping schools accredited are in conflict with what you guys are tasked with, which is making sure we churn out intelligent people for the stability of our republic. So that's sort of here's a map here of they're all over the state. I mean, they're all over the country. They've gobbled up all of the accreditation agencies everywhere, and their entire website and all of their standards and everything are full of the classic DEI language and SEL language that we see from these global Marxists. So if that's the story that you're also following, I'd be interested to note you're also now the vice chair of the House Education Committee. So I think some of this stuff might be percolating up a lot more for you.
Yeah, that came much to my surprise. I'll let you know. So
me too. It was a bombshell.
Yeah, nobody took me in a room and said, "Hey, we're going to do this with you." I just found out at the same time everybody else did. But as far as the DEI is concerned, we're working on a task force and mainly dealing with higher ed. And most of the people in Idaho think, well, gosh, we already did this, because we know that even the gentleman on the second floor has announced in his State of the State last year, I think, that that we've rid our system of these things, but it continues to creep in. We're finding it in our rules as we're examining the rules. There is supposed to be a new social studies coming out for K through 12, and some of our legislators in cooperation with some of the senators put a resolution through last year so that we could do accurate history on Western civilization, the good, the bad, and everything. And that was all kind of a nod that we were going that direction. And then now we find out maybe not. What I'm curious, and I haven't done the research, is if this organization isn't somehow linked to the one that also controls all the higher ed certification and credentials as well, like with the problem we had up north and stuff. Right. We did meet with them, and the head of that organization, Senator Taves, pointed out they kept saying that they're not interested in pushing DEI, but on their website it says it's their primary thing. This is the thing that they're attached to, and when that was brought up in committee, they tried to say that, well, our website is just for our employees, so they're the only organization on the planet that put out a website not for other people, but just for their people. And we did ask a lot of tough questions. I asked several times if they really hold that DEI is great and pure. Would they believe that any institution that would adopt those principles be better off? They refused to answer it because it would have shown their hand, but that was asked 3 times in committee. They wouldn't answer the question. So there is a lot to do here, and great work by Charity and others. That this is where it's got to come from. I mean, we're 105 people down here trying to handle 600 to 1,000 things coming every session, and we need the help of the folks to point these things out where we don't see it. Now, some of this we're seeing it in the rules. So, and we're going to try to deal with it here. So, in the Education Committee, but there's a lot that we can't catch all the time.
Yep. Well, that's why this show exists. That's why people like Charity are out there doing what they're doing, and we want folks to continue to pay attention to this. One of the things that the final question on this before we move forward here is if it's this call me crazy, but can't the State Board of Education create its own accreditation terms and things within, why do we have to outsource it to a third party company? Why can't we just have that internal? Because Idaho cares about Idaho's own kids and what we want to do in coordination with our Constitution and so forth. Because right now, the current costs for accreditation review every 6 years, there's and this comes from Charity's article in Kootenai Journal, 297 public high schools in Idaho. It amounts to $356,000 in annual fees, and then and they do it for every 6 years. So that's $1.2 million every 6 years. I think that money could be spent. You could probably do it for less and keep it in house. Is that something you think might be possible?
Well, this is a question we're asking, and one of the things that really ignited this question amongst some of the legislators is when we got they update their rules and they're trying to strike stuff and reduce stuff, and I opened up, and the first thing that was in the rules was there's recognition of accreditation organizations, and they've always relied on the national, out of DC to tell them who is, but we're always thinking, well, can't we find somebody else? Well, we look at the rule is striking out the opportunity to look somewhere else. Wow. And relying wholly on the national, but this is a rule, I'm going to tell you, if I have anything to do with it, won't make it into the change. Because we do think that, for goodness sakes, the state should be able to do it, and we should be able to do it much cheaper. I know that Kootenai Classical, I'm not sure that's the name, yep. Kootenai Classical Academy that just opened up 2 years ago, they're K through 8, and to move on and have sports, they have to have this accreditation, which everyone's confused. They think it's to make sure you're teaching the right things. It's just a control mob, I believe, at this point. So just for them to have this accreditation, they have to go through what you just talked about, and it's $8,000 for that school to do that, to have it all audited so they can go 9, 10, 11, 12 and have sports. Otherwise, they can't have sports, and if you can't have sports, you can't attract high schoolers. Because high schoolers are interested in playing sports. So this is crazy that we're going to third party, and especially when those third parties do not have Idaho interests in mind.
That's right. Well, thank you, Dale. That's a great. I'm so glad you're on top of that, and you appreciate folks like Charity bringing this up to attention. And so, folks out there, share this story around, get into the details, talk to your own legislators in your district about this, and we'll keep this story going. All right, Representative, real quick, you're now vice chair of House Education Committee. How did this come about, and are you excited about what moves forward? We watched it the last 2 years. You were on that committee as well at the time. What do you expect differently this year?
Well, one, like I already shared, becoming the vice chair came as a surprise. Matter of fact, when they were reading the chairmanships and vice chairs across the desk, when they read my name, I was so distracted I didn't hear anybody else who was on the committee. So it was a bit of a shock. But I thought, Representative Pickett and myself, I went to him. I guess he had some doing with me getting that role, and I think we'll work together well. He's pretty down to earth. Some people were worried about his district and other people in his district. I can assure you that he is out there for the students of Idaho. He is not on board with all this woke stuff. He's going to work as hard as I am to try to rid the state of it. And the committee, as you know, Matt, last 2 years was show up and get defeated if it was good conservative legislation. That was the mode for every day. It was very, very hard to keep going. Matter of fact, Representative Boyle at one point just gave up and quit. And some of us were going to do the same. And it was Tony Wisniewski who encouraged some of us, no, we have to stay here. We have to have the arguments so they're all recorded and they go into the books, so that we're asking the right questions. So that's why we hung on. But we couldn't get in. We couldn't even get a We couldn't even get a bill passed that said in the classroom you'll hang the U.S. flag and the state flag and not the other distracting things. We couldn't even get that. So this year we'll hear that again, probably the end of this week, the beginning of next week, and it will pass off the House side because the committee is shaped up much better. It's not lopsided one way, but it's just a better committee. I mean, last time it was 10-7, 10-7, 10. I mean, we couldn't get anything anywhere. We're a little bit smaller committee, and we're more evenly. And there's the footage of Ted. Yeah. So, or Representative Hill. I apologize. So, but
so formal.
So yes. It's a little more. It's better balanced, and everybody's looking out for the best interest of the kids in Idaho. I mean, that's what it's about. We're not moving the ball for the people of Idaho to keep. My thing to say all the time is, let's save the republic.
Amen. Absolutely. Well, we're so thrilled to have you there, Representative Hawkins. And it's always great to have you on the program. People love it. Love to see you out there. And I look forward to when these bills get to the floor, because whenever you stand up on the House floor to say something, it's always a great moment that is all about saving the republic. I mean, your core is hardcore. And that's fantastic. So where can people follow you and keep tabs on your work, Representative?
Well, I mean, everything that we do obviously is on the on the Capitol website. You can go in, you can watch all the committee meetings live. You can watch the floor live. I think it's the real Dale Hawkins on X. That gets into that stuff. I'm still trying to learn how to do it all. You can go to the website for the Idaho Freedom Caucus as well. We're listing, what our goals are for the year and what our outlook is for Idaho, and just trying to serve the folks and encouraging them to get involved. Call us. I mean, and when I say call us or email us, I'm talking to the people that are listening. You call me and email. We don't get on some click thing and somebody's harvesting your emails, and I wake up and I got 500 emails in the inbox that are sterile. I can't answer them. That's not the way to communicate. The way is to reach out and have a discussion so that we really, really know it's you and what you think.
Yeah, amen to that. Very good. All right, Representative, we'll let you go. We'll check in back with you again, and especially keep tabs on this DEI stuff. So thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you very much, Matt.
All right, take care. All right, very good, very good. Woo, man. I'm telling you, folks, that's a big story. That DEI and the Cogni and all this stuff. I mean, why can't we do that? Why can't we do it all on our own? We're spending every 6 years over $1 million to outsource it to some global company to take care of accrediting and saying what's right for Idaho schools and Idaho students. I don't know, folks. I don't see it. We'll take a quick break. More to come.
Coming from within the system, which the process in the system is broken.
Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those two founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together. All right. Head over to lifecda.com. Use promo code SIGNAL. Get 10% off your online order. You can get some great coffee there. It's roasted in-house down here, up here, wherever you're watching. You might be watching up from Coeur d'Alene, but most of you are probably watching down from Coeur d'Alene. So, but in Coeur d'Alene is Life Public House, where they roast some great coffee. I prefer Mineral Ridge, although my wife came home this week with the Beaumont blend. So I've been drinking that this morning. I've got my coffee here, drinking it this morning. This is my Blackboard Cafe Wallace Idaho mug. It's got great coffee in it. So, okay, very good. LifeCDA.com. Use the promo code SIGNAL and get 10% off your online order. Very good. All right, let's go through. I mean, there is still some activity going on in the legislature in terms of the committees. And so we kind of want to get you up to speed on some of that. Also, if you have comments, we'll throw your comment in. We'll throw it up on screen and let everybody see what you're thinking about. But we wanted to highlight this. Yesterday in JFAC, the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee, which is where the legislature, this is the committee that sets the budget. Okay. And right now what they're going through is they're going through some brief presentations from all of the different departments and agencies. They'll come before the committee. They'll kind of outline their big asks for the year in terms of their budget. And that'll give an opportunity for the legislators on that committee to ask questions and get some clarifying answers, and then also request some more information for when they actually do submit their budget for an actual vote and approval. So, and these folks have been working long hours. I mean, the JFAC folks are up all night. They're up way early, and all the folks that are working in these budgeting offices of their own divisions and stuff are working with these legislators. So it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of activity. And I want to kind of highlight something here because these are the types of questions that need to get asked during committee. And it's fascinating too, because there's this whole government, how government kind of creates a problem and then it creates a solution to its own problem. And it always seems to find a way to spend even more money, more of yours and mine money. So Josh Whitworth is the director of the Idaho Board of Education, right? Is that what it's called? I get all these titles mixed up. But he was before JFAC, and there was a question about and let's put this up. Let's put the PDF up on the screen. The budget line here. This is the workforce, the public-private workforce capacity grant. So this is $15 million that the State Board of Education is asking the legislature. They're asking for $15 million, okay, to be made available as a grant. Now, this grant, you can see here, will allow institutions to build infrastructure capacity if it relates to workforce training and in-demand careers. If that term workforce training and in-demand careers sounds familiar to you, it should, because that's the whole point of the launch grants. The launch grants, which passed with the launch bill a couple of sessions ago, this affords $8,000 to high school graduates and adults if they choose to go into an in-demand career field, and then they need to be trained for it. So if you want to go be a welder, instead of the welding company or whatever paying for your training or bringing you on staff and you learning the trade as an apprentice or working like normal, the state has said, no, we'll come in and we'll pay $8,000 so that all these different folks can learn all these different career fields that are in demand in Idaho. And the Workforce Development Council has a list of we've showed it before last year. I think the top one was like office clerk. It was like the most in-demand thing. So if you want to get $8,000 to go learn to be an office clerk at a college institution or a trade school, that might be available to you. So all that to say that there has been, I guess, a apparent uptick in the amount of students that want this training. And so but the capacity to train these people, to educate these people in terms of where can we put them, the classrooms, the whatever, wherever they're being trained, the infrastructure is now limited. So Josh Whitworth went before JFAC to answer a question about this $15 million ask. And let's watch a little bit of what he tells them.
The other side of that, what I'd be looking at and what we've seen in talking with industry out there, we have huge interest and demand in mining. We have huge interest and demand in forestry. We have huge interest and demand, let's say, in nuclear engineering stuff for the growth of Idaho. Welding, fabrication, mechatronics, as we get into all these kind of programs that are at capacity from a facility base, from a faculty base, but have tons of demand from the student. And as we talk about what creates demand, you have to have students, or the ability to educate, you have to have students, you have to have faculty, and you have to have facilities to do that. And what we've seen with the growth of demand for higher ed, and our numbers are showing as you look at our fact book, that post-secondary education is increased in Idaho when many of our peers have actually decreased. And so we see that need, but what that creates is that capacity problem at our institutions where we might not have enough seats for welders. And
so notice what he said there, that we've had an increase in this post-secondary education while other places have had a decrease. Now, of course, part of that is that the industries are growing here, so there's more of a demand for these careers. But do you know what happens when you start handing out $8,000 a pop? You're going to have people take advantage of that. So no wonder there's an increase in folks looking for this type of education. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Let's continue.
Coming from Mackey, I actually have a guy that works for me who's struggling to get into a program because it has so many students interested in that welding program that he probably has to wait out a year. And that's not good for our industry. And so as we've talked with our partners in our institutions, these funds are really to be directed towards those highest demand needs in our communities. And that's based on technical advisory committees, business committees, and then what we're seeing in the in-demand career list and activity that we're going out there. But then also having that put skin in the game, so that there's actually industry asking for these people because they need them. So if we're going to make a bunch of microreactors, right, what do we need to make sure that our pipeline of students and workers can actually get to that? And this program is designed to address that in a very real way.
Okay, that's the program. So again, what is the program? Let's show that budget line item again. The program is to ask the state for $15 million to sort of be matching grants, right? In a 1-on-1 or 1-to-2 ratio, it says down here. The funds will be awarded to institutions which raise private dollars to match any state investment. So if a university like Boise State or Idaho State University, if they want to expand a department and build infrastructure to take on the demands of these folks who are looking for this training, they're going to have to raise private dollars as well, and then have matching dollars to go towards whatever it is they want to build. So I don't know. My thinking goes, if that's how it works, then if if a company comes along and says, "Oh yeah, we'll donate, we'll donate $100,000 if you guys are going to put in $100,000 to build something that will benefit our company," and then we probably get a tax write-off, right? Because you're donating it to a higher ed, right? So they get a tax write-off, and then maybe because they put so much money in, maybe the name of the building is called whatever their company is or whoever the CEO is. I mean, it's like. Do you see what happened here, folks? The government created a program that was giving out money to all of these potential students. They have nowhere to put the students. So now they're asking for more money so they can build places to put these students, and the companies don't have to pay anything. But if they do want to pay something, they may get a tax write-off because they're donating money. I mean, I don't know, folks. I mean, I don't have all the answers, okay? And I know some of my haters out there are like, well, what do you do? What are you going to do? I don't have all the answers, but I know that there has to be some better ways of thinking on this issue. And usually it's the free market. That's where I tend to go when we want to solve things, is the free market. Let the free market work itself out. It will work. We've seen it work in the past. Anytime government comes in here and starts spending all this money, I mean, 15. We just got through talking about how much money is being spent for accreditation agencies, right? We're outsourcing that. We could do it cheaper in here and have it be more effective. It's the same thing here. The free market should be doing this. Companies should be training their own employees. I don't know. All right. Well, we're going to keep tabs on that. I mean, again, that was just a hearing to listen over those things, and we'll see if that $15 million is granted to or that $50 million request is granted to be grants, whatever. Anyway. All right, folks. The comments are coming in hard today. You guys are really having fun out there in the comment section. I see stuff coming in from YouTube, from Facebook, from X. Fantastic. Keep them coming. We'll throw them up on the screen as they come along. You can also, if you notice, on the bottom here, leave a voicemail to be played on the air. 208-402-4915. That's the number. We played a voicemail yesterday from a caller. We thank Damon, I think his name was. Damon called in. Fantastic. And so, folks, if you want to leave a voicemail and leave a rant, we'll play it on the air. Fantastic. Justin here says, why did the Hippocratic Oath change in 1948? The most important part of do no harm sentence, use dietary regime as treatment, was removed. Interesting. All right. See, there's all these different discussions we're sparking out on the internet. Okay. All right. Let's go around the horn for the rest of the committees. Let's see. This morning, Speaker of the House Mike Moyle was in House State Affairs with a bill. This was a bill to be printed, so we don't have the full bill yet. I mean, we can check the website and see if it's up yet. But in the spirit of the Department of Government Efficiency that's going to be happening at the federal level with Elon and Vivek and Trump and everybody, in terms of cutting back government, Speaker Moyle took the time to present this piece of legislation that he wants to go forward. And so here's a little bit of what he said this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Mike Moyle, District 10A, I guess, 10. The last few years, the legislature, you all, have been doing some things that are now getting national attention. And I'll use our rule-making process as an example. Representative Barbieri and others on this committee have helped us as we've gone through the process of finding the rules that needed to go away, giving more authority back to the legislature to control those rules. We actually get national news on it, right? The Wall Street Journal, Elon Musk and others talk about what we've done here. The new national word is Doge. And I think that Idaho's been doing it for a long time. In fact, I know we have. In fact, I had staff go back and look at the different bills we've done the last 2 years. And there's a stack like this that would pertain to government efficiencies, cutting back government, fixing things. And a lot of you on this committee have brought those bills. You don't always get credit for what you've done, but you've done some good work. This bill takes the next step. What this bill does is requires all state agencies by September 1st of 2025 to report back to the legislature what they think is unnecessary. It requires them to go into their statutes and look at outdated statutes, obsolete statutes, statutes that aren't necessary, and then bring back to us in September what those are, so that next January when we come, we can go in and all those code books behind you in those files, we can go in and start doing this with them like we've done with rules, finding out what's not necessary, what's not working, and what can be cleaned up. It also allows those agencies with the permissive part, while they're looking at their own statutes and providing that report to the legislature, look at other statutes that they think are probably not necessary, that may pertain to somebody else. So it gives them the ability to help us find out what we don't need, that we can clean up those statutes. So with that, Madam Chairman, that's the bill, and I hope that you could introduce it today and we have more discussion about it.
Does the committee have any questions for the speaker? Ooh, lots of questions. All right.
Oh, my God.
Representative
You're killing me, Madam
That's
Chair.
State Affairs.
Okay, we can cut out of that. Yeah, she said it right there. That's State Affairs. There's always a lot of questions in State Affairs. So we'll keep tabs on that. That's really great news. We always want to keep looking at the code and reducing regulations and all that stuff. And so Speaker Moyle was correct to point out that Idaho has been getting a lot of national attention on that issue. And it's always been the legislature that's been behind those actions. So we'll keep tabs on that. It's very good. Now I see the comment. I love this. And his response to the question, do they need more time? No, they do not need extra money. I don't recall what that was referring to, but anyway, we're keeping tabs on all this stuff. I'll just maybe that was something that came up earlier. I got to let the comments distract me. Okay. Okay. What was next? Oh yes. So, last week we highlighted a clip. Speaking of DEI, we highlighted a clip of Democrat Senator Wintrow, where she was confused. She was so confused by what individual merit meant. Watch the clip.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand though, what is merit? What you just said, like you're talking about wrapping services around students and a holistic approach. And that resonates with me. Yep. That sounds good. I'm just not understanding what it means to have individual merit. Is that like you deserve something? What is the definition there you're trying to help me understand?
Curtailed.
Okay.
Sorry.
We have this full clip up on our Rumble and YouTube, so you can go watch that whole segment there. But Senator Wintrow there, the Democrat, was confused or just didn't understand what merit meant. However, yesterday in that meeting in JFAC that we showed earlier just now, she said this.
Mr. Bybee? Oh, yes, Senator Wintrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think Co-Chair Horman just made me think of a question. I don't know, maybe it's for the members of the CEC or Mr. Bybee who was present there, but I'm still just trying to wrap my brain around why we wouldn't do a 5% across the board based on merit. That is the law, that we do things based on merit, and that we've chosen this number. I'm just not sure I understand the philosophy behind that. And maybe that came out in the committee and I didn't hear it.
Mr. Bybee?
Far be it from me, Mr. Chairman, to stand up and talk philosophy of. I like it, but I don't think in committee is the proper place.
I called you Dr. Bybee earlier. Yes. Dr. Philosophy. Right there. We'll hold on to that then if you're not ready to respond. And that's a great question, and we'll have folks ready to respond hopefully on Thursday. Can we coordinate that effort? Okay.
Okay. All right. I know that may seem a little bit out of context here, what they were talking about. They were talking about pay raises, and there was the idea that they could either give a dollar amount pay raise or a 5% pay raise based on merit. And but back to the word merit, it sure seemed like she knew what merit meant then, and she knows that it's in statute already when it comes to pay increases and stuff. And so when she's in a committee talking about DEI, getting rid of DEI and basing things in higher ed on merit, she has a problem with that. So you're not allowed to ask questions in committee that you know the answer to. And because it's wasting time and it's trying to lead the witness and so forth. So Senator Wintrow, I don't know, man. I don't know. Do you know what merit means or not? I don't know. The comments over on the YouTube channel are great on that video. So I encourage you to go over to watch that whole thing. But we're keeping eyes on you, Democrats. We're always keeping eyes on you. Okay. The last thing that happened, I believe this was this morning or yesterday, Representative Brandon Mitchell out of District 6 was in front of the committee with a bill. And again, it's been very light, and we kind of just want to show you all the different types of bills and conversations that are going on. So here's Representative Mitchell with his bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Brandon Mitchell, District 6, Latah, Lewis, and Nez Perce counties. Before you, we have RS 31879. Basically, this legislation is designed to exempt. Current law says that you have to have a helmet on if you're over or under 18 years old when riding in a UTV. This is to exempt that so they don't have to have it, but they do have to have a seat belt and a roll cage on the actual unit for protection. So that's what this is about. And so I ask for you to introduce RS 31879.
Is there any questions? Representative Shepherd, do you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we introduce RS 31879.
Thank you.
All right, there it is. And again, these are just RSs, so we'll learn more about why they want to exempt minors from having to wear helmets. I guess it's just we don't really have a helmet law for adults here, and I know it can be a thing where people just like to let the wind flow through their hair. So it'll be interesting debate to see that. I don't know how you all feel about that, but that's just the sort of thing that goes on. That's the Transportation and Defense Committee, of which Brandon Mitchell is the vice chair of that committee. A lot of folks in that committee too. That's a big one. So we'll keep tabs. We'll keep tabs on all these committees for you because that's what we do here. We want to keep you informed. We want to keep the signal cutting through all of the noise out there. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise out there, and it's important to stay focused on what is happening day to day in the legislature. And we thank you for being here. I humbly ask you to go to our link tree. You can see that it just scrolled right by below. But our link tree for Citizens Alliance of Idaho has all of the places that we're at, whether it's Idaho Signal or Citizens Alliance. And so I encourage you to go there and follow us on those accounts, set up an account, learn what's going on in these different areas, because if you're just stuck on X or you're just stuck on Facebook, you're going to miss a lot of this stuff. And so it's important, if you're going to be engaged, it's important to have avenues at those places, or at least know people who can share things. I know there's also a lot of Telegram groups and Signal groups and stuff. So a lot of people are staying informed and keeping tabs on everybody. But we certainly don't want you to miss anything. So follow us over there. That's fantastic. IdahoSignal.com is where you can help support the program. So we ask you to do that. We've gotten some great support already since we've been on the air this season, and so we're really appreciative of that. All right. Tomorrow we have a special guest on. In fact, I have her book right here. Elizabeth Landis. She is, it says here on the back, she's a graduate of Ohio State University. So I know where she's going to be next Monday. And she and her husband, they're out in Moscow, but she's also at, she's an assistant to the president at New St. Andrews College, which is in Moscow. And she also founded the college's Civics Club in 2020. And so she has this book here, The Forgotten Realm. And this is all about getting involved in civics. If you're an American Christian, and it's all about getting involved in civics. And so we're going to have her on tomorrow to walk through this book. So please be sure to tune in for that. Have some questions. Maybe if you have some questions for her, we can throw them up on the screen and see if she'll answer them. I have no idea how that's going to go, but we'll see. So we're lucky to have her on. That'll be great. I love having local folks on that put out stuff like this that can have national and ramifications for good. So we're really pleased for that. All right, folks, thank you for joining us today. We will be back here tomorrow, and that's it. Take care.
Bill, I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.